in collaboration with the IQAC of the college. Today we are deeply privileged to have with us Dr. Swati Mukherjee, Associate Professor of Gurudas College, Kolkata, and Guest Lecturer of Lady Brabourne College, Kolkata, former Guest Lecturer at the Department of English, Calcutta University, who has come here today to deliver a lecture on Derek Walcott, Rhythms from the Caribbean. We welcome her most heartily with a bouquet of flowers. I will call upon Debusmita Shaha of Semester 2 to hand out the bouquet. We are deeply grateful to have with us Dr. Uma Ray Srinivasan, the teacher in charge of the college, who has taken time out of her busy schedule to be present here, and without whose support this program would not have been possible. We welcome her with a bouquet of flowers. I call upon Antara Bose of Semester 2 to hand out the bouquet. We are deeply privileged to have with us today the IQAC coordinator of the college, Dr. Dipanita Pal Ghosh. We are thankful to her for collaborating with the Department of English. We welcome her with a bouquet of flowers. Inisha Rai is given the bouquet. Before we proceed further, let us have a photo session with all of us together and the members, the teachers of the department. Please let us have a photo session first.
Good morning to all my dear students, my colleagues, and especially to our honored guest, Dr. Swati Mukherjee. Most cordially welcome to our college, to our department. I have had the good luck of interacting with Professor Swati Mukherjee long back. I wish we'll have many more such interactive sessions in future, starting from today. Well, the subject which has been chosen for a talk is a very interesting one, something very gripping talk to be. Very useful as well. It's a portion of our syllabus the students will be studying. Post-colonial literature and Walcott's place in that. I think that this kind of topic is something which is very relevant for us, because all our English literature, all literature in India written in English, created in English, in a sense, in a very important sense, is post-colonial. So, our literature, whatever is written today, starting from the earlier decades, the freedom movement around that time, somehow these are the post-colonialism of India is allied to whatever we are going to hear today from Swati Mukherjee. I think the students will be able to relate the two in a very important, meaningful way. But unfortunately, I will not be able to sit through the session and listen to that. But I believe there will be a recording, I suppose, so I will definitely catch up with this, and with these very few words, now I pass on the microphone to, yes?
Introduce Dr. Swati Mukherjee to us.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Swati Mukherjee is an associate professor teaching English literature in the Department of English of Gurudas College, Kolkata. As a guest lecturer, she has taught American literature to the postgraduate students of Calcutta University till 2020. She is currently a guest lecturer in the Department of English, Lady Burgon College. She has done her schooling from Loreto Convent, Ranchi, and later graduated with honours in English from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. She has done her Masters in English from Calcutta University and her MPhil on American Drama under Dr. Anandalal from Jadavpur University. Her PhD on Theodore Dreiser and Urban American Fiction was done under the supervision of Professor Krishna Sen of Calcutta University. She enjoys writing scholarly articles for various journals. She has also written 2 books, one on the societal influences on the works of Tennessee Williams and another on the 19th century American literature, keeping in mind the PG syllabus of Calcutta University under CBCS. She is currently in the process of writing her 3rd book on 19th century British literature in accordance with the BA Honours syllabus of Calcutta University under CBCS.
Your teacher in charge, who went a long way. We know her as Umati, and now I see her in a very important administrative post. I was very thrilled to catch up with her today. IQAC coordinator ma'am, who was here even for a short time. I was very thrilled to have her here. The HOD and the departmental faculty members and the students. Today, as you know, I will be speaking about Derek Walcott. As I came to know that you haven't yet started it in your class, right? So I am not here to teach you the poem. I am sure your teachers are going to do a fantastic job of that in class, right? So I am here just to introduce Walcott to you so that it is a kind of a warm-up lecture, so that by the time it is finished in class with you, it will be a meaningful experience, right? So I am here just to share my opinion and how I have understood and interpreted Walcott, so that it gives you a certain parameters by which you can explore the poet. He was not only a Nobel laureate, 1992 he won the Nobel Prize for English, but he is also a voice for the post-colonial writers. Yeah. So just to put things into perspective, this is how I have interpreted Walcott, and in case it helps you, I will be very happy. The first section I have taken as landscape and place. Right. So this will be the first section of my discussion. How for a post-colonial writer, the place where he is operating from has a major place in all his writing. Right. We will be discussing that in detail. For that I have selected a few poems which you can go through. This is a collection in a dream night. There are some poems underneath that. Omeros is the section, the epic, for which he got the Nobel Prize. This was written in 1990 and 1992 he was awarded the Nobel Prize. So this is a kind of epic, a mock epic. In fact, you are familiar with mock epic. And Midsummer is a poem under which I have put landscape and I put this under landscape and place because the Caribbean, remember the subtitle which I coined is Rhythms from the Caribbean, because Caribbean I have taken as an inclusive term, both as a Caribbean poet, because Walcott is from the Caribbean, and the place, right, and the Caribbean race. So Caribbean is a kind of umbrella term under which it operates, that so much of literature, he is one of the representative poets. But there are other people who also operate. So I am using Walcott as a kind of microcosm or as a representative voice for all writers who are writing from a place which was a former colony of the European powers. Right. Second section I have taken, and this is very relevant for Walcott, is race and discrimination. Under that I have taken a few poems which you can use as your cross references. The Sea is History, Rains, and Return to Dennery, Rain. This is the same poem, right? Return to Dennery, E''ENNERY, Rain. So these will come under race and discrimination, where he has not forgotten the trauma that his ancestors had faced because they had been enslaved by the British, right? So because it was a British and formerly French colony. And the third section, with which I will end the lecture, is Fractured Self and Divided Loyalty. This you will find in the poem when you do it in class, that he is trying to bring together, coordinate the conflicting
identities of an European and an African. So for that you will need to some little bit of a biographical detail with which I will not waste your time today. You can look it up anytime. He had an European grandfather, African grandmother. Right. So you cannot deny either of them. You have inherited the blood from both. Why do I use the word blood? Because he keeps on reiterating the word veins. Right? I am poison to the blood. The veins, divided to the veins. So within me is circulating the blood of both African and European ancestry. So it is difficult for me to accept one and reject the other. Right? Why? Because as we will discuss, I may be angry on the colonizers for oppressing my people, but I have adopted the language. Yes, I have adopted the language, I have loved the language. So we as Indians can identify a lot with that. Yes, we are trying to establish our own identity today. You have Indian writing in English as part of your syllabus too. We have adopted the language of the colonizers, and yet we are trying to break out of the shackles which they had imposed upon us. So that is why I thought Walcott would be relevant for you and me today, because we as part of a colonized nation, pre-colonized nation, we will be able to relate to many of the factors that he is talking about. Right? So my interpretations, because these are the things which keep coming up once you are into Derek Walcott's poetry, as I was searching through all his poems to find out how they could be categorized, and it would be easier for me to communicate with you. The first that you will remember is how landscape and place is a kind of protagonist in his poetry. Right? It is not just a kind of, I have a quotation here, some critics have said landscape and place was used as a backcloth. When you are into drama, yes, you have props and a backcloth, yes, you show that you are in a certain place. So is it that just it was a backcloth, or is it something more than that? That is what you have to decide for yourself on the basis of your reading of Walcott's poetry. Right. The intricate relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. So it is always a bitter relationship, oppression, that is 90%. And yet I cannot deny the fact that I have adopted a lot from your culture and your language. Right. So it is he is in a dilemma. That part is your fractured self. That I am divided to the veil, because even my blood is a mixture of two heritages. Yeah. And race is, in fact, I gave a talk on Alice Walker's The Color Purple, where race is a predominant feature. Here race is one of the features, it is not a predominant feature. Race, because the idea of the experience of enslavement, that is something you cannot get rid of. Even if you yourself were not a slave, your ancestors were slaves, right? They have passed on the stories to you. Yes, and I will be referring to this poem, The Sea is History, where he refers to the sea as a grey vault. A vault, yes, where so many stories and mysteries are hidden. Why? Because they were traveling by the slave ships. As soon as they fell in, they were dropped into the sea. So these kind of tortures were experienced by Walcott and other people like him and their ancestors. Okay? So let us start. In a colonial and post-colonial context, this gave rise to his collection. This is In a Dream Night is a collection of poems, right? And you have many beautiful poems in that. So if you could just look it over, everything is available on the net. You don't have to buy books. I just thought I could mention a few poems if they could help you as cross-references, so that you could explore him better. So this is In a Dream Night, poems 1948 to 1960. So this is the time period when he was writing. This is a collection of poems. It was published a little later in 1962. This section mainly discovers and mainly tries to expose the scars of colonialism. Right. This is something, as long as you are in the Caribbean, you cannot overcome that. Every side you see, you have something which will remind you that you were once a slave. Your ancestors were slaves. You were once tortured. You did not have anything of your own. This is a constant reminder, and he keeps on recurring, and he keeps on mentioning this, reiterating this in all his poems. about this, right? So Caribbean I have used in the subtitle because it is, as I said, a term which includes all aspects of his poetry, the man and his work, right? So Caribbean will be related to both. As I was mentioning, his epic, this is a mock epic. You are familiar with the mock epic? Yes, you've done Ritortana. So mock epic. Why is this a mock epic? And for this he got the Nobel Prize. This is 1990 and he got the Nobel Prize in 1992. This is a mock epic because it is it is written in the format of the Trojan War. But what happens in the Trojan War? You have great heroes. You remember? Yes. All the elite people, the heroes and the royalty, all they were involved in all those epics of ancient times, like Roman and Greek. Here it happens, it is between a fisherman and a taxi driver. So all of us are heroes in our real life. In my drama, I am the most important. Something which hurts me, something which pains me, I will try to remove that, I will try to overcome that. You remember Athamila, Death of a Salesman? Yes? Anybody, an ordinary man of the street, that person is a protagonist in his or her own life. This is the idea that Walcott is putting in Homeros. It is a mock epic, does not have to belong to any system. It is you are important to yourself and to people who are around you. And so this is what he is putting it through, and he got the Nobel Prize for that. Right. Saint Lucia is an isolated British colony. Right. So it is a volcanic it was a volcanic island, and so apart from that, it was a very beautiful place, which is why as climate seeks its time to write verse, crisp as sand, clear as sunlight, cold as a curled wave, ordinary as a tumbler of island water. So if you notice, crisp as sand, clear as sunlight, curled wave, island of tumbler water. So every aspect of my life on Saint Lucia is important to me. Something as ordinary as a tumbler of water, or something as beautiful as a wave when it falls falls on the shore, breaks on the shore. Right. So there are many authors. If you could just remember this point, because you will need to speak about this when you study Walcott. Walcott, like many other poets, believed in the power of landscape. Now, this is an important point in his work, the power of landscape, and this helps to shape his cultural identity. So the power of landscape helps to shape his cultural identity, and this is a special relation that exists between post-colonial writers and the place they come from. Why place? Because your place is today, it is free. It was not free at one point of time. Your ancestors did not have the freedom and the comfort and luxury that you are enjoying. Can't we identify with this also? Yes? Yes. People have sacrificed their lives so that you and I can live in a free world. So, post-colonial writers will obviously have a very special connection to the place where they are writing from. Yeah. So, this is because they try to find a kind of identity and a kind of anchor. Yes, that is the word I was looking for. They are trying to find an anchor in a chaotic world. So in a ship, when there's a shipwreck, you want to anchor somewhere safe so that you are not blown away or there's no ship. So in the same way, these writers try to find a place as an anchor where they can calm down and use it to form their identity. Because what is your identity? You were just slaves. You were enslaved by the Britishers. You were enslaved by the European powers. So you are trying to establish an identity based on the place that you are writing from, based on the place of your birth. Yeah. So place and landscape will have an important place in the writings of post-colonial writers like Walcott. Okay. The narratives of the land and the self are more interconnected in the Caribbean than in any other culture. So his poem, Another Life, which I have put in some other category also. Another Life, that you mentioned this, yes, Another Life. Another Life This is a story of Walcott's growing up in the evocative landscape of St. Lucia. So another line is an important poem in the sense you can put it in all categories. You will have in the landscape also and you will have in the fractured self also. So I am quoting here from an interview he gave to The Economist. Right? This is a publication. This is 1990, a couple of years before he was awarded the Nobel Prize. Landscape and place, island, what is the first idea which comes to your mind? If it is an island, you are surrounded
isolated,
by what?
isolated,
Sea.
isolated,
Isolated and you are surrounded by the sea.
sea.
Yes, sea is your major factor which is making you an island. Yeah. So he is referring to the sea as a major part of his inspiration. The sea is always present. Stop. It is always visible. All the roads lead to it. I consider the sound of the sea to be a part of my body. Right. So the waves seem to be falling all the time, crashing on the shore every time. It is a part of this entire cycle. So you cannot ignore the sea if you are writing from St. Lucia or any of the islands. Yeah. So this is, he has given this as a part of an interview to The Economist. Okay, and as I mentioned, this landscape he used to sit when he is not writing, he used to paint, and all the landscape paintings, some of them were selected as book jackets, they were printed on the books of his books, right? Because he had an eye for artistic symmetry, and so he is a kind of what you would call a public artist, a very creative person. Writing, painting, everything, yes, so a very creative person who is trying to express all his experiences, observations through his writing and his painting. Yeah.
Ma'am, he used to learn painting when he was young.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Yes. So the beauty of the Caribbean islands is captured not only in his writings but also in his landscape paintings. Yeah. Right. So this beauty is acting as a kind of muse. You are familiar with the muse?
Yes, ma'am.
Muses. Yes, you have seen the Hippocrene fountain. You know that. So it was acting as a muse, and he acknowledges that it has helped him to evolve as a writer. So I have taken from Midsummer. Midsummer, he is written, 40 years gone, in my island childhood, I felt that the gift of poetry had made me one of the chosen. If you can note this term, please, it was important. In my opinion, it is important. One of the chosen. The Red Indians are nowhere on the sea.
Yes,
They are the original, and people now are saying that why do we involve immigrants? You people are immigrants also. You do not acknowledge that. You have removed the original native people. So we will not allow immigrants. You have also come as immigrants. Original Red Indians are nowhere on the sea. You have killed them and pushed them out. So here also, from land you come to race, because it is because of race that the original people were wiped out, and so for cheap labor, the colonizers got people from Africa and other colonies like India. So you have an Indian presence also in St. Lucia. Right. So Caribbean is kind of a mixed bag. Right, a mixed bag. Why? We use this in many terms. If you teach American literature, I use the term, and you will find it in literary terms as a salad bowl. Yes,
ma'am.
salad bowl, you are familiar
Yes, ma'am,
with
salad,
that?
yes, ma'am.
A melting pot, salad bowl. These are literary terms, right? A salad, all different ingredients have different tastes and fragrances of their own. You put them together, something new is brought in. Yeah, so that is how a place with mixed cultural influences comes across to us as that. Right? So, for cheap labor, the British colonizers, they got people from all their colonies all over the world. So you have people from Africa. When you do the poem in your syllabus, that it is called Far Cry from Africa. Isn't that so? So your teacher will tell you that sitting in St. Lucia, which is not part of Africa, he can hear the cry of his native people. Got it? See how beautifully he has brought it in? Yes, he can hear the cry, the trauma, the pain of his native people who have been tortured by the same colonizers who have colonized St. Lucia. Yeah. Okay. So it was a process of forced migration. You didn't go out of your own and today you can go, okay, I want to settle in the Caribbean islands, it's out of your own choice. In those days you had no choice. You were forced there, right? Because you were enslaved, they were more powerful, the colonizers wanted cheap labor to do that, and they were the masters and you were the slaves. So everything we do is right, everything you do is uncivilized, savage. These are the words you will find in the poem in your syllabus also. Yes? So savage is a word we don't use for us, they are using for us. You will see another word, very derogatory, humiliating terms. The gorilla wrestles with the superman. The gorilla, yes, uncivilized, primitive, Africa. Got it? See, one word is evocating so many ideas. Yes, a superman. So you consider yourself the superman. Everything you do, you have more power, you have more abilities, everything, you are more sophisticated. That is how you look upon us. We don't consider you the superman.
Ma'am, in Heart of Darkness, we can
Yes,
see these
absolutely.
terms.
Absolutely.
Conrad.
Yes,
Yeah, Heart-
true. Right. So people were enslaved and oppressed by the British. So we cannot forget the background of colonial violence which forced his ancestors from their homeland. So many people were murdered. Right. If you protest, you are not allowed to do. We have seen in our Indian history, some of you may have had freedom fighters in your families, ancestors. Yes, they will tell you stories also. Everything they do is right and we have to follow. Nothing indigenous is allowed because they are said to be threats. Well, if you raise your voice, you can be a threat to our superiority. That is why people who protested were either jailed or murdered. So if you go to say Selina jail, the Andamans, how can you not be moved? Every cell is telling a story. In the last few hours before they died, they have written so many things on the walls. That is because they protested, they were put in jail to be killed in a few days' time. So Walcott is relevant to us as Indians because we have a background of being colonized by British for more than a century. Yeah.
Ma'am, we can relate with this things that the lack of identity or the
Yes.
things, their voice was also muffled and something.
Absolutely. Thank you. Right. So the I've chosen the names, right? This we are doing race. So this is from the poem Names, where he traces the origin of the black races. My race began as the sea began, with no nouns and with no horizon, with pebbles under my tongue. Please note the image, pebbles under my tongue. So difficult. It is an ordinary activity we cannot do because it is like we are chewing on pebbles. Life is so very difficult. With pebbles under my tongue, with a different pitch on the stars in the flags of the Indian fields. Indian here, not in the sense of Indians as us, West Indians, yes, so the indigenous population. The fields belong to my people or the West Indians. Now we have the flags of the Britishers on those fields. They have taken everything from us. You have taken our lands, you have taken our people, you have taken our identity. So what have you left us with? Right. Just because you are powerful does not mean it gives you the right to go into this kind of conflict with people who are weaker than you. Right. So those people who are writing against the colonizers are saying it is because you don't have enough in your own country. That is why you are going to other countries to loot and plunder. Yes. If you were satisfied in your own country, if you had enough, you would not go out. You are going in the name of queen and country and things like that.
And that's true.
Absolutely,
Very much.
it is true, it is true. Right, so that is why you have writing side, you have the empire and strike. Yes, and we are giving it back to them in their own language. Yes, today we have taken the language but we have an identity of ourselves.
Ma'am,
Right, that
nowadays also when like I was looking at a video and they were talking about the food in England and they were the Indian tikka masala was the staple and it had become the traditional food of England.
Yeah.
So I was like it took from us. So like they never had something like that in their own country. So they're taking from India and they're making it popular there.
At least now it is in a positive sense. In those days it was taken away forcefully. Right, yes, true. Okay, so the Caribbean people, because so this is what he is protesting against. So if you take everything away from us, we have nothing. What kind of identity changing. Remember, if I bring labor from Africa, suppose, yeah, because I need people to work in St. Lucia, so I am taking young teenagers or smaller boys and girls to work for me. By the time they are here for 20 years, will they remember anything of their own tradition? They will be acclimatized to the European culture and tradition itself. So, you have made us forget our own history and culture. My race is enslaved because of my skin color and because of the weakness. Because I am not as powerful as you are. So here I have chosen this from the same poem, which is names. Behind us all the sky holding as history folds over a fish line. Fish line, the net? Yes. History folds over a fish line and the home foreclosed with nothing in our hands, please note this, but this stick to trace our names on the sand. Can you get the powerful image? Yes, with the stick I am tracing my name on the sand. Last line, which the sea erased again to our indifference. So it is as temporary, as transient as writing on the sand. Our identity, our culture, our anything which belongs originally to us is wiped away by the sea, which is the European colonizers' culture, which is so much more powerful than the writing on the sand. Yeah.
Ma'am, they are uprooted from their native land, so that's why there is a lack of identity and that where they belong, it is absolutely
yes, and you are
removed.
not allowed to express their identity. Everything you have to adopt. He goes on to mourn the fact that even the rain is a reminder of past sorrows. You can never be washed clean of the wounds that history has made on your native land. So same poem. The next generations cannot fully forget what has happened to their forefathers. Right. So even if the rain comes, just imagine the picture. The rain can go into a puddle in a garden, or the rain water can go into a gutter. Isn't that so? So it is as if, when we read out this poem, it is as if the rain, which is a reminder of the past tortures, is percolating to the gutter of the mind. Right? So that we remember that forever. We can never be free of that. Right? It is stagnating in our minds. It is stagnating and it is festering within us like a sore. Yeah. So this is from Return to Genevieve Bay. The rain sweeps slowly to the core of grief. So core of grief is your mind. It shouldn't change its sorrows and be home. It cannot change though you become a man. So even if you grow up, you cannot overcome it. It cannot change though you become a man. Now you are brought to where manhood began. This separation from, this phrase is also important, the wounds that make you think. The wounds are hurting physically, but the wounds which make you think, because the wounds are in your forefathers, percolating to your mind also. The wounds that make you think, and as this rain puddles the sand, it sinks old sorrow in the gutter of the mind. So the sorrow remains in the mind, it is festering, it is untidy, it is not something which freshens, it is not something which cleans your mind. Rain is usually refreshing. Yes, the plants become green, everything is beautiful. This rain is bringing the sorrow. Because earlier you have seen in the same poem, the earlier quotation, wires of rain, not droplets of rain. Right? So wires are methods of torture, instruments of torture. See how beautifully he has used small words in such very meaningful ways. So the wires of rain, and here you have sorrow in the gutter of the rain.
Ma'am, it can also mean the shackles which were, they were, they were, yes.
Chains, yes. Yeah. So gutter of the mind, it remains in the mind and it cannot be washed away. So this is something he is communicating to us. Right? The colonizers have plundered the land, treated them as animals and brought irreparable loss. The bitter experience has made an everlasting wound. This is what I was talking about. This wound is making you think because it is everlasting. It is not something which will heal. So So something which does not heal. That is why it stays in the gutter. Everlasting wound in their psyche and identity. So he, through his ancestors, has lived through this experience, can portray and express it well. The native population is considered as inferior. So here I have taken a quotation, same point. You are less than they are for you. Truth. So it is the truth that you are not as important to them as they are for you. Same point. So you are made to feel inferior at every point of time. You are inferior because you are non-white, non-Western. The beliefs and the cultural values of the larger power are forced upon the indigenous population. The natives are, as I told at the beginning of the lecture, that they are considered as savages. Because they are not as, quote-unquote, civilized as we are. We are civilized in our own way, thank you. Right, we don't eat with knives and forks, or we did not used to. Nowadays we do, trying to appear happening sometimes, yes. But we keep our hands clean when we eat it, yes. So we have our own set of culture, we have our own set of civilization, we have everything. Just because it does not match with yours, does not mean that I am uncivilized or I am a savage. Yeah, this was where you have gone wrong. Remember, if it is impressed from a very young age to a child that your brother is so well established, your sister is well established, you are not as good in studies as your brother or sister, you are the black sheep of the family. Whether it is true or not, it will be a part of the child's psyche. So the child grows up with a sense of inferiority. Yeah, so this is what they did. They broke the strength of mind of the indigenous people. That you are inferior because you do not match up to our standards. So they were enslaved through generations. Right, mother is a slave, the child is born in captivity. Yes, and the child is sent to some other slave farm so that the mother and child are separated. You do not have blood connection in the same farm where you can come together and protest. So you are breaking the spine completely of these people, so that they can never retaliate. Yeah. So the radical nature of racial distinctions, this is what Walcott is very sensitive about, and the colonialism and slavery, this forms a major vibration in his poems. Right. Now we come to the last part of the lecture. Can I go on a little bit? This is because divided royalties. This you will find in the poem when you do it in class. He is saying that because I have adopted the language, I cannot turn away 100% from what I have inherited from the European culture. Well, my language is not strong enough to speak to the rest of the world. Remember, because they have colonized so many places on the world, today it is a kind of lingua franca or the link language or international language. Isn't that so? We are writing and using their language. What we write is different, but we are using it. So I cannot totally say that I have shut myself off completely 100% with anything to do with the Europeans. He cannot do that. And that dilemma comes forth very much in all his poetry. Right? So I am just a red nigger who loves the sea. I had a sound colonial education. I have Dutch, nigger and English in me, and either I'm nobody or I'm a nation. I found this very powerful. If you consider me quote-unquote nigger is a very derogative, humiliating term. Yes, nobody uses it nowadays, but in those days, before, like anti-apartheid came and racism was more pronounced, nigger was a very commonly used term for the black people. So he says, yes, I am a nigger. I am not turning away from my identity. With that, I had a colonial education, which is an English education. Yes, I love the sea, and with that, I have Dutch, nigger, and English in all my ancestors. So a multicultural heritage. I am enjoying a multicultural heritage. So either I am nobody. If you consider me nobody, that is your problem. Or if you give me an identity, I am speaking on behalf of a nation. See, isn't this a powerful thing? Yes, depends on your viewpoint. Savage or civilized is you are considered. I am speaking on behalf of my nation. Yeah, right. So he feels it is his obligation to articulate his experience as truthfully as he can. His poem, Another Life, here is a story of his growing up in St. Lucia and the decision to leave. Remember, he was given important positions to teach in the University of Essex. You will find that in the biographical details. So he taught in England, he taught in America, all the Western countries. They have recognized him for the talent. Yes, so he cannot say that they have not recognized me today. Today they have to recognize me and the heritage that I bring along with my writing. Yeah. So, what else was he but a divided child? This is from one of his poems, Divided Child. I have chosen this because it is part of the Cornelia syllabus. I am divided to the vein. I am poisoned by the blood of both. See, so when you read the poem, the third stanza, in my opinion, is the most important in Far Cry from Africa. So instead of saying I was enriched by the blood of both, the multicultural heritage should have been an advantage for a writer. Yes, so instead of that, he is saying I am poisoned by the blood of both. I am carrying the shortcomings of both the races within me. So it is difficult for me to reconcile to all this. So the complexity of living and writing in two contrasting cultural worlds. This is what he is portraying in his writing. Right. So he wants to overcome the tag of being a descendant of a slave. He was not a slave, but he is a descendant of a slave. He was made to feel inferior in his childhood because, oh, your grandmother was a slave, we brought you forcefully from Africa, you have no identity here, you came to serve us. So that inferiority he wants to get rid of. So that tag he wants to get rid of. So the problem of writing in English, that he is trying to overcome because he has no other medium to express it where the message will go out to the rest of the world. Right? Then he would have to speak to everybody in their language. That is not possible. English is understood by major part of the world. So this is where I have to use their language to show what our race has been. So your landscape, race and divided self, they are all brought together in his poetry. Apart from the divided self, I put it after divided self. Other feelings which you will find in his writing, you have a sense of guilt. Yes, guilt, isolation, yes, anger, anxiety. These are things you will find in his writing. Guilt, he did not remain in St. Lucia for the rest of his life. For his own ambition, for his own career, he went abroad to the same countries which had tortured his ancestors. So you have a sense of guilt. Should I go back? He used to go back to the Caribbean, which is why I have written Rhythms from the Caribbean. He used to go back to the Caribbean for inspiration, but he did not remain there for his entire career. So you have the sense of guilt and you have isolation, anxiety and the turmoil in his mind. The psyche which is divided. The mentality that which way do I go? Right. So all these points you will please note when you are doing this. The disorientation of the speaker is seen in poems like Bacon Point and Map of the New World. See, New World is important. Usually we refer to New World to the Americas, right? Because Pilgrim Fathers, they came from England, yes, and established the New World, which was a virgin country at that time. So here he is using the West Indies also as a new world. Map of the New World, we are trying to draw a new map. Trying to draw a map of the new world which is free from the horrors of enslavement. Yeah. So he is unable to enjoy the beauty of the island fully because whenever he goes there, he is reminded of what his people have been. So many have been murdered, so many have been killed. Africans had been brought from there. When you do the poem in the syllabus, you will be referring to the Mau Mau rebellion in the first stanza. Yes, there are Kikuyu tribes fighting the British colonizers there. So they are also the cry of the Africans can be heard from Africa to the Caribbeans, because it is such a high-pitched sound. It is such a high-pitched and painful sound. He can hear it because of the cry of his ancestors sitting in the Caribbean. So mixed ancestry of English and African origin, and in a way he is both Caribbean and European. Right? He is a mixture of both. He has two heritages and two birthrights. That is what he keeps saying. I have two birthrights because grandmother and grandfather. So mentally and spiritually, he is in a divided state all the time. So divided loyalties, fractured self. Yes, these are the key words I thought would help you. So the theme of exile also comes up. Isolation, alienation. So theme of exile because he has left his hometown of St. Lucia and gone to a country which does not belong to his ancestors. So the cultural complexities that make up the new world, he is trying to reconcile the doubleness of identity. Yes, which part do I give prominence to? Which part do I ignore? Which part do I give prominence to? The last line of your poem, the poem you have, is how can I turn from Africa and live? Yes, so even if I am writing in English, I cannot ignore the fact that my people have suffered and they are not as so-called quote-unquote civilized as the Westerners. They still have a lot to do. So my loyalties are there, but at the same time I have to acknowledge that I have adopted the language of our oppressors. Yeah. So towards the end of the lecture today, I have taken a quotation from I am a kind of split writer. I found this relevant. This is from one of his interviews. I am a kind of split writer. I have one tradition inside me going one way and another going another. So I am being pulled into different directions. So my writing is a product of conflicting identities. Yeah. Okay, what else do I need to share with you? That split identity, we have spoken about guilt, anxiety, isolation, and a sense of helplessness also. That I cannot change history. None of us can change history. So this is what my ancestors have suffered, that is there. That we cannot ever change something. So I would just like to end by reading out a section from the speech of the Nobel Committee when he was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1992. Just taken a very short part, a small phrase. Walcott's work was described as a poetic quiver of great luminosity. See the word luminosity, illuminating an entire race. Of great luminosity sustained by a historical vision. Yes, historical vision, like what? The outcome of a multicultural environment. Right? So he is speaking not only to his own people but to the world at large. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Institution College, I would like to thank Dr. Swati Mukherjee for this wonderful, very thorough discussion on Walcott. I'm sure all of my students are greatly benefited. Some of the same 4 and 7 students are present today. So do remember, because you will be studying Walcott in the next year or year after. And SEM 6 students, I'm sure they're highly benefited by this lecture. Thank you so much, Didi. Thank you for coming. It was a wonderful listening you.